There's 26 games left after Miami returns from the All-Star break, but one of their biggest questions looks even further down the road. Wes, will the Miami Heat really let Norm Powell walk away after an All-Star season?
Before they decide that, they have to decide what direction they're going in.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or your favorite podcast app, thanks for making us your first listen every day. Join the Cookie Gang, become an everydayer. That means subscribing, tuning in every day, Monday through Friday, and signing up for the Everydayer Club with the link in the show notes. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. I'm Wes Goldberg, host of Locked On NBA Daily and Real GM Radio. I'm here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day. Got a jam-packed show for you today on the other side of the All-Star break. Giannis is grabbing headlines again, and Keshad Johnson became the third ever dunk contest winner in Heat franchise history. We're going to talk all about all of that here in a second, but let's start with that All-Star game on Sunday, David. A lot of criticism going into the All-Star weekend about the All-Star weekend is dead. The All-Star game is dead. I watched it on Sunday, the round robin, Team World versus Team Stripes versus Team Stars. You know what? For the most part, I thought it was excellent. I thought it was really well done. I thought it was competitive, and I give credit to the All-Stars for going out there and really competing. These little 12-minute mini games ended up not giving these guys an excuse to just not try, right? We've seen in the All-Star games in the past, they don't try for 3.5 quarters, last 5 minutes, all of a sudden there's a little bit more competitive juices flowing here. But in 12 minutes, I just think it's too little time to just not compete, and too much time where you could kind of just look flat out embarrassing if you don't try and the other team does. And I thought it was a win overall. I'm still a little skeptical about World versus USA teams, but I think the general format of 12-minute games, round robin with 3 different teams, I think this works.
Cool. Good story, bro. I mean, honestly, I appreciate the perspective, but we went through this. I remember you saying the exact same things when I was covering it, I think in Chicago, and we had the follow-up episode, and you were telling me about the Elam ending. And what happened then. I think we're just at a point where it's easier to complain about the All-Star game than to realize that no one's ever going to care about it, which is totally fine. The All-Star game used to be an exciting moment for fans when there wasn't this complete oversaturation of being able to access players in commercials, on social media, and all the different steps in between, and all the different ventures that they have off the court and everything else like that. You only saw these players when they were playing for your hometown team. You didn't even see them on TV as much. Yeah. And so the opportunity to see, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, et cetera, playing alongside some of the greats from the rest of the league, those are the moments that were exciting for fans. And I know that's going back a ways, obviously, but it's kind of progressed to this point where I don't think anybody's ever going to really nobody gets as excited about seeing Nikola Jokic playing with Luka Doncic the way they should. That's a historic combination of players, and you add Victor Wembanyama to that, and we're kind of less ho hum, no big deal. We're talking about potentially 3 all-time greats sharing the court at the same time, and somehow it just doesn't seem to stir anybody the way that it should. And so I think we've just kind of overlooked what the actual problem is, that in today's world, we're just kind of so used to seeing all these players all the time that we're not nearly as excited about it. The format, I think, is great. I think the format's fantastic. And I think I don't think there was anything wrong with the format beforehand either. But yeah, you just want to see you want to see things competitive, and you want to see the players seem to care about wanting to beat each other. And that's fine. I think that's what makes it exciting. And it would work, I think, if, again, the general premise was that people would care about the All-Star game more.
Yeah, I think the point you make about the exposure to the players is such an important one, too, because the All-Star game used to be the only time where you maybe even saw Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, right? If you lived on the East Coast, maybe you were 10 years old, you never saw him. You saw him in a commercial and for McDonald's or something. That was about it.
Airplane.
You saw him in an airplane, right? And you're like, I don't know about this guy. But in now, just yes, with all the social media and the TV, League Pass, man. Like if you're an NBA diehard who would have been the person who cared a lot about All-Star in the first place, you probably just have League Pass or illegal streaming or whatever it's going to be, where you can go find these guys if you want. Let's talk about the Heat part of this though. Norm Powell was Miami's representative in the All-Star game. He was playing on Team World. In a weird way, he started for one of the Team USA teams, and then with injury replacements and things, Adam Silver shifted him to Team World because of his Jamaican heritage. That was sort of the way that they could kind of, smudge the lines and figure it out. So Norm Powell ends up on Team World. Victor Wembanyama was the headliner of that team. Jokic and Luka played all 5 minutes of the first game, and then they were like, we're good. Shea didn't play because he's hurt. And so Norm Powell actually had an opportunity to really step into some real playing time. Unfortunately, he didn't really make an impact. He missed his first 3 shots of the first game. He goes 2 for 7 overall in the tournament, I suppose is what we're calling it. Missed all 5 of his 3-pointers. He's not the reason why Team World came in last, but it would have been nice to see him make a little bit more of an impact, David. And I guess my takeaway from it is I'm just sort of sick of our All-Stars doing this. Like, Bam famously doesn't score in these games when he's an All-Star. Tyler Herro scored 6 points last year in another weird round robin when one of the teams was the Rising Stars, and that was a mess. Goran Dragic barely played the year that he made it. And then you've got Norm Powell, who got out there and really couldn't make a shot. I miss the days of Dwyane Wade winning All-Star MVP, like being the best guy out there in 2010. The Heat have been talking about getting an alpha, and if you want to know in case there was any confusion about what an alpha is versus a regular All-Star, this is what it looks like. Watch Victor Wembanyama in this tournament. Watch what Anthony Edwards was doing. Watch what Kawhi Leonard was doing. What Kevin Durant and LeBron James are doing for pockets of this tournament. That is what a real alpha dog does on an All-Star game. And this is not a Norm thing, really. We'll talk about the Norm part of this here in a second, but just this recent history of the Heat getting like these last cut bubble All-Stars in. I miss the days where we not only had like that surefire every year perennial All-Star, but sometimes like the best guy in the game, the best guy out there. Like Dwyane Wade, there were years where you could be like, I don't care if it's LeBron, Kobe, whoever's out there. You can't tell me anybody right now is better than this guy. And the Heat just haven't had that in a really long time.
Absolutely. I bet Bam probably leads the All-Star game in screen assists. I want to win like MVP with a 30-point outing, but we don't see that during the regular season when the games actually matter. And so why would we see that during the All-Star game? But it is unfortunate. You're right that you want a player that is on par with everybody else to kind of just shine in those moments. Like that's, you look at Anthony Edwards winning MVP and it's like, that's the dog. That's the guy, like you know that you put him out there even amongst the other greats in the game and somehow find a way to outshine and eclipse those players. That's a pretty special thing. So, you know what? All this talk about Giannis and eventually Donovan Mitchell and everybody else, that's the guy. That's the guy. I don't want to do this and kick the can yet again for chasing the whale, but obviously I think the pursuit of Anthony Edwards, and I don't think it's realistic, and I'm not even saying that it's going to be a topic of conversation at some point in the future, although it probably will. But I would love to see Anthony Edwards in a Heat uniform.
Sure, who wouldn't, right? But Minnesota's been to the Western Conference Finals 2 years in a row. Why would he leave Minnesota for Miami at this point?
Because it's Minnesota. It's Minnesota, and why would you want to live in Minnesota? But if they keep winning,
if they keep making it to the conference finals and they keep reloading, heck, they might make a run at Giannis this summer. Like, who knows, right? You really never know with this stuff. That said, let's talk about the All-Star that we have right now. Norm Powell. Being an All-Star would usually mean getting re-signed. But Norm Powell will be a free agent this summer. He is extension eligible right now, so they can either sign him to the extension or just sign him as a free agent if that's what they want to do. At the same time, the Heat are looking like they're headed towards the play-in tournament for the 4th year in a row, if not the play-in, at the very least, like another middling type of season here. Norm Powell is 32 years old. Like I said, when you're an All-Star, it typically comes with the assumption of, yeah, you're good. We'd like to have you back. You're an All-Star, for goodness sake, right? That's not necessarily like a shoo-in for Norm Powell right now. We're going to talk about that, plus Giannis. Stop giving interviews, bro. We'll talk about that next.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? Let me tell you, I've been there, and it is phenomenal. The excitement is another level. FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you've already been looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, well, this is the perfect time to lock it in. I love futures this time of year, whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title. It just adds the extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And now, not only can you pick cash in, but he could also send you to the NBA Finals. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Locked On Heat. As you might have heard us mention on the show recently, we launched a new subscription program called the Everydayer Club that includes ad-free shows, access to a group chat for Heat fans on Discord, and now we are launching an all-new all-access tier as part of that program that includes even more. If you sign up, you're going to get all of the perks that I just mentioned, plus the ability to text me and David directly, submit questions for our post-game shows, and subscriber-exclusive episodes of Locked On Heat. If you're interested in being part of the Cookie Gang, joining the Everydayer Club, tap the link in the show notes or head to lockedonheat.supercast.com to learn more. Norm Powell was asked about his future in Miami during All-Star Weekend, and here is what he said, quote, "This is definitely a place that I want to be. It's been nothing but great coming here, getting adjusted. The organization has been amazing. I love where I'm at. I love the setup. I love the mentality. I love the approach. It has been, honestly, a super easy transition because I feel like everybody in the organization has the same mentality I have of pushing yourself to achieve the best and be the best version of yourself. It's been fun. So hopefully there's some good synergy from what they've seen that I bring to the table. And hopefully a deal is able to be done sometime. But yeah, I see myself being here and being a part of the Heat organization for however long they'll have me." End quote. David, you hear that from Norm Powell over the weekend. The fact that he is an all-star. He's also 32 years old. We're not quite sure what the direction of this Heat team is going to be over the summer. What do you think when you hear that?
I think he's gone. Honestly, I think that he really means what he says, that he's looking at a time now in his life and his career where he's looking for stability and he's looking to sign a long-term deal that's going to at least give him that kind of cushion of, you know what, I'll be here for the next 4 years and not have to worry about it. This is a guy who started off, spent most of his tenure in Toronto, then was traded to Portland, then was traded to the Clippers, and each stop making an impact and being the kind of player that he's been and getting better and progressing and developing. And here he is making the All-Star team for the first time. And he's like, look, I'm tired of it. I just want to be at one place. And I like the culture. I like the values of this team. I like where it's going and the idea of the kind of stability that it brings. I want that mirrored in my own life, and I'm looking for a long-term contract. I just don't think Miami gives it to him. And the reason why I'm looking at it as the All-Star, obviously making an All-Star team is a significant point in your life and in your career. It's something you can point to and say, look, this guy is good enough. He's one of the 20ish best players in the league, at least during the course of one season. And that should receive the kind of recognition that it deserves. But guess what? Miami had an All-Star in 2016 that they let walk. And he was a guy who carried this team to 3 different titles and 5 different runs to a championship. And it didn't really matter. A guy who had defined his franchise for 13 years, a guy who had been there and done everything he possibly could, a guy who brought his friends and Chris Bosh and LeBron James. And this guy was Dwyane Wade, and they let him walk after being an All-Star in 2016. And you're trying to tell me that they won't do the same thing to Norm Powell? Absolutely they will.
They could, right? I guess the difference between Dwyane Wade and this Norm Powell situation was that with Wade, he was looking for a lot of money. And we don't really know how much money Powell's going to be looking for. And I think that's the key part.
Probably more.
Well, probably more than what it was back then, but maybe in relation to percentage of the cap and stuff. I don't know.
Sure, I get it.
I don't know what Norm Powell's realistically looking for. I mean, to your point, he might be looking for one more big payday, right? Regardless of the length of the contract. He's like, hey, like if there's somebody out there giving me $30+ million, I'm going to go ahead and take that.
What do you think the deal is? Like 4 years, 120 million? That's what I would say.
Something around there. Yeah, that sounds about right. The problem is for Powell, where's he going to go? Right? Like the Wizards just ate up a bunch of their cap space. I don't know that he would have wanted to go to Washington. I'm just looking at the teams that had cap space. Like teams like Washington and Utah decided, hey, they're going to just trade for players in February as opposed to maintain their cap space. Okay. The Clippers might have a little bit of cap space, but I don't see him going back there. And I don't see the Clippers wanting to bring him back there, right? They're clearly post Norm Powell already. The Brooklyn Nets, the Chicago Bulls, like those teams don't seem like they're in the market for a 32 going on 33-year-old guard. He'll be 33 at that point.
Yeah.
Where's he going to go, in other words? And because the Heat opted not to trade him at the deadline, and I don't know if they got any offers for him or if they even were aggressively looking at offers for him, but they have his bird rights now. They are the ones that can get him the extension. So of course he could go and maybe sign a longer term deal on the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, but that seems like it's going to be way below what even Miami might be willing to offer. I still think, given the way that this organization is run, regardless of a direction, if they choose one or not, if they can get Norm Powell to come back at what they deem a value contract, I think you just bring him back and they figure it out later. And I know that there's a whole Tyler Herro wrinkle in this, and that to me is just, that's not necessarily part of the equation this summer. You look at the Powell contract, you say, hey, can we bring this guy back for something that makes sense for us on a 2 or 3, maybe like a 3-year deal? Maybe there's a team option on the other end of it. Maybe it's a 3+1, a 2+1, whatever it is. You figure out what the deal is that makes sense. It's a value contract. You say, he's a good player. Let's bring him back. The Heat don't like to let good players walk away for nothing. I think they would probably just, if they can hash out a deal that makes sense, say, let's just bring him back and we figure it out later.
Yeah, I'm going to push back on that one a little bit because I agree with you that that's probably the right move there. But I think you need to get a much better sample size of how Norm works alongside Tyler before you can start thinking about either of them being part of your long-term future. Like you're kind of, Tyler is the more obvious choice just because of his youth that you want to lean into that and wonder whether or not there's another level there. And I think you ideally would want to have Norm there. But if what you're looking at is 4 games, 3 games, I don't even know how many games they actually played together. Yeah, less than a handful. And you're looking at that and saying, well, it wasn't particularly successful during that stretch. Why would we give Norm Powell, I don't know, more than $20 million a year to have this?
He's a good player.
Yeah, but if the fit isn't there, the fit's not there. And you'd rather keep that money for somebody that would make this team better and would be more, either you deal Tyler or you don't sign Norm. But I don't think you can afford to bring them both back, not knowing what that looks like, which the caveat here is, hell, Tyler could return this week to action. And next thing you know, Miami goes on a run where they win 30 of their next, 30 games or whatever, 20 of their next 26 games. If that's the case, absolutely you bring him back.
And that's what's interesting about the Norm Powell thing is he's still extension eligible right now. You can re-sign him today if you wanted to at any point during this window. To your point, too, you don't want to necessarily eat into that 2027 cap space because that's the year that the Heat have still been prioritizing their free agent money. So that also becomes a question here with Norm Powell, too. But maybe you don't bring them both back because maybe one of them is involved in a superstar trade, which brings us to our next topic. Giannis Antetokounmpo sat down for an interview at All-Star Weekend and again left the door open for more trade speculation. David, here's the quote telling Malika Andrews of ESPN, quote, "As of today, I'm committed to the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm committed to the people that I work with, my teammates, the coaching staff, Coach Jock, and John, being John Horst, in the front office. What I've said from the beginning of this year is that out of my mouth and the way I've carried myself, you will never hear me say, I don't want to be a Milwaukee Buck." End quote. I have my feelings on this, David. I know you have. Just go off. I'm going to clear out. I'm going to give you the ball. You're Bam Adebayo in the post. I'm clearing out. You get the whole side of the floor.
No, because I might just wind up turning the ball over. No, listen. What are you gonna say, man? Like, didn't we just go through this less than 2 weeks ago? Didn't he just say legends don't chase, right? They attract.
So he did all of this for months, saying quotes just like this for months, and then he doesn't get traded, and he's like, "Psych, Wolf of Wall Street, legends don't chase. I'm not effing leaving." And by the way, this was pointed out to me afterwards. That Wolf of Wall Street thing. He tweets the video, "I'm never effing leaving." You know what DiCaprio's character did in that movie? He left.
Yeah, that's a good point. But it's just, I'd love to think that this is all like a language barrier. Maybe it doesn't translate directly in his head. But no, you're absolutely right. Like, I'm sorry, I don't buy it.
For a guy with a language barrier, he talks a whole lot in English for a guy with a language. No way. Stop.
I know. He really is toying with everybody, and he is really just kind of playing it as long as he can. I think he thinks it's funny. I think he thinks he's being silly. And
no, I don't think
everybody on their toes.
I think he thinks he's outsmarting it. I think he thinks everybody's stupid. He's like the level of semantics with this guy. As of today, I'm committed to the Milwaukee Bucks. You'll never hear from my mouth.
Yeah,
say I don't want to be involved.
That doesn't mean I don't want it.
I don't think we've heard from James Harden, like from his mouth. I don't want to be a Houston Rocket. I don't want to be a Philadelphia 76er. But we know damn well what's going on behind the scenes, dude. Like, what are you talking about here? This is crazy. All that said, if he wants to come to Miami, doors open.
Nope.
But
shut it. Shut it. Board it. I don't want anybody that
whole
much
thing
of a clown show.
But what drives me crazy about this is how Milwaukee Bucks fans will do a victory lap over this. See? And it's like, what? See what, dude? I'm sick of everybody blaming the media for this Giannis trade speculation. He doesn't have to sit down and do these interviews. Nothing is required of him to do this. The All-Star game wasn't even in Milwaukee. Why is he sitting down with Malika? Right? This is Kawhi's
He loves
town.
the attention.
What are you doing?
He loves the attention.
He loves the attention. But that's what he thinks he's setting the record straight. And they're like, dude, you're not. You reopened the door. You could have left it at your dumb Wolf of Wall Street. And now I'm invested in this marketplace thing. Now, you could have just left it there, as ambiguous as it was. But nope, you had to sit down and try to clear the air. And in doing so, you reopened the door. And we're going to just do this for the next few months. And I'm not going to feel bad for doing these segments. I'm not going to feel bad. You did it, Giannis. You're the reason why these segments exist. It's not the media. It's not Shams. It's not Malika. These are your words on television. I don't want to hear it, man.
Shams is at fault. He's the one who stirs the pot needlessly.
Right.
This is him drumming up interest where there is no interest in acquiring a multiple-time MVP and All-Star, one of the top 5 players in the league. No, nobody. Teams around the league don't want that player on their roster, nor do they try to make a push to acquire the said player. You know, it's just so ridiculous. It's so patently silly for Milwaukeeans to be like, what are Milwaukeeans? Milwaukee.
I heard this the other day. I'm gonna look it up.
Who cares? The point is, you know what? They can be happy with what happened and feel content. And I would not be surprised if Giannis about faces and changes and does a complete 180 or maybe a complete 360, because you never know. He might stop and go, no, I really do not want to be here. And then at the same time, turn back around and be like, no, psych, totally want to be here. I'm so happy being a part of this organization because legends. As of today, how is that clarity? How is that reassurance?
And then
right
all these
now,
like, weird food metaphors, like with Sam Amick, it was about eggs, like liking them scrambled, and then maybe tomorrow they're fried, and then he threw his marriage under the bus somehow, and then
I'm trying to see what his vows would be. Something as of today, I totally want to be married. That doesn't. You'll never hear me say I don't want to be married, but as of today, I am.
His wife was reading this interview like,
wait,
marriage. What the hell? How did I get involved in this? And then with Malika, he's like, I want to eat steak again, comparing steak to championships and all this stuff. So whatever. People from Milwaukee are called Milwaukeeans. But also you would maybe, if you wanted to broaden it, you would just call them losers. Wisconsinites. It's not their fault. Keshad Johnson won the dunk contest, but did he also show that he could maybe actually contribute to the rotation on the court at the same time? We'll talk about that next.
Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed sponsored jobs, workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one person you have to fill still sitting open. The one position you've got to fill is still sitting there open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for with the skills, experience, or location. So you're just not hoping for the right candidate and then they stumble across your post. Here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now. Support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Today's episode is also brought to you by TurboTax Full Service. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you just meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employment forms and work to get you every possible deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver, and it gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have all your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150, all in. If your TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. We'll be right back.
Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen of the day. The best way to support the show, like and subscribe on YouTube. One thing we didn't get to from All-Star Weekend, Keshad Johnson, winner of the dunk contest, becomes the third member in Miami Heat history to ever win the dunk contest, joining Harold Miner and Derrick Jones Jr., who won in 2020. And like Derrick Jones Jr., Derrick Jones Jr., at least at that point, sort of parlayed that dunk contest win into a real rotation role and ended up being a big part of that bubble run team. And I wonder if there's a similar future there for Keshad. Because, man, first of all, congrats on the win. It wasn't the greatest dunk contest. Keshad Johnson was easily the most entertaining of the group there. That included Jackson Hayes, Carter Bryant, and Jace Richardson, Jace Richardson literally fell over himself, hit his head on the backboard, and fell during it. So that was not great for him. Jackson Hayes basically just gave up in the middle of his dunk contest. Carter Bryant maybe wins this dunk contest if he's able to land his last dunk in the final round, but he can't. Keshad Johnson wins it, very deserving, jumped over E40. And the thing that stands out to me watching this dunk contest, this guy's head is at or above the rim every single dunk. And you and I know what Keshad's level of athleticism is, but to see it there on that stage against these other players, he was getting up higher than Carter Bryant. He was getting up higher than Jackson Hayes, who's significantly taller than him. This guy is we knew he was a freak, actually. This guy is a freak among freak athletes. And I just wonder, David, do the Heat have to play this guy more down the stretch of these next 26 games just to see what he's got? I mean, this is the second season now on the regular roster.
Yeah, I think you're right. It would seem like Miami would want to at least determine exactly what they have. But the way that they typically operate is they look to see what he's doing behind the scenes. And that makes so much more of a difference. If he's putting in the work, if he's doing all the things, the little things that stand out to Erik Spoelstra and making an impact there, then we'll see him earn more playing time. But by virtue of there are injuries, but not to a position that he can improve in. He's a tweener, right? I mean, he's more of a 3-4 than anything else. I
could see 4-5.
Maybe. It's just, I don't know where he fits on the court. That's part of the problem. I don't think he's skilled enough as a ball handler to play the 3 regularly. I don't think he got the size or strength to play the 5. So I guess you're kind of stuck with him at the 4, but I don't know that he's necessarily skilled enough or a good enough shooter to provide that floor spacing ability at the 4. So, that's what ultimately got Derrick Jones more playing time, is the fact that, yes, the athleticism was there, but he was an incredible perimeter defender. And he also had an improved 3-point shot than from where he was earlier in his career in Phoenix. So I think we'd need to see that similarly from Keshad in order for him to kind of carve out that playing time. But you know what? There is potential there. I think you look at Derrick Jones, he's a guy that was basically cut for nothing in Phoenix at a point in time where they could really use a good young player. They were like, nope, we don't see any future for him. And Miami resuscitated his career. He's playing now. He's been great. He's been a really effective player, and he's still been able to make an impact in the NBA as a perimeter defender. So I think there's a possibility that Keshad follows a similar path, but he needs to do the work in order to be able to carve out and find a niche out there on the floor.
To your point, too, Derrick Jones Jr., you're absolutely right. It was the shooting, right? We knew the athleticism. We knew the defense potential that was there, even though we didn't really see it on display until he was actually on the court.
Right.
But once that shooting came around, he was able to play. It took Derrick Jones Jr. 4 years, by the way. And that guy was a second-round pick. Keshad was undrafted. It took Derrick Jones Jr. 4 years to carve out a real rotation role after his stop in Phoenix and then in Miami. So Keshad Johnson still has some time here, obviously. But, man, that athleticism is tantalizing. But he doesn't have an NBA skill yet other than being able to jump really high, right? He goes out there. When he's out there, he competes really hard. I love the energy. Everything I hear from him about him behind the scenes is he's doing the work. He's doing all of it. The work has to, lead to that jump shot falling regularly enough in practice and all these things where they feel comfortable putting him out there. But shout out to Keshad Johnson. Really cool for him to represent Miami and the Miami Heat and win the dunk contest. Like that was still a pretty cool moment for him in the organization. Thanks for tuning in today to Locked On Heat. Make sure that you subscribe, follow Locked On Heat so you get all the latest episodes. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Join the Cookie Gang and get Locked On Heat ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonheat.supercast.com to join the club.